like, people that have never heard the band before, and they're like, oh, what kind of music do you play? I'm like, I always just say rock.
Yep.
But if they ask like more, like if they're like, well, what kind of rock? Like rock, like what? I'm like, oh, it's kind of like post-hardcore. That's my next go.
Yep.
Then it's like, well, what's that? It's like, oh, well, it's kind of like punk, but heavier. Oh, like Ramones? I'm like, well, I guess people call it emo because it's like melodic as well. And so I go down the list, and emo is always the last thing that, like, if I get tortured with the question, that's my last.
But you don't want to get tagged or labeled first, and it's it's not your fault.
No,
but it is so. Well, but it also is just there was a phase and a style and
a haircut.
A haircut. Yeah, a belt color. Hello, best buddies. How you doing? Welcome back to the show. Your favorite, my favorite, everyone's favorite podcast. Is it anyone's favorite podcast? I'd like to think so, but I don't need to flatter myself that way. I'm actually not that into favorites. Because they change all the time. Anyway, this is my favorite episode this week. Great one. We're talking to Mr. Tucker Rule, drummer for the band Thursday, among others. Really nice to talk to him. What can I say? You're going to hear it. If you're new here, this is a podcast. We're broadcasting from the East Coast of Canada. I myself am a drummer. The show started off as a drummer interview program and has moved into talking to other musicians, other people who work in the music industry. And it started as a way, it grew out of a website I made to like find drum students when I was out of a job after my band broke up. And I realized by about the second episode that was not what this was going to be. It was not appropriate for children. But it was fun. So that was 2 seasons ago. We're now in season 3. And for the first time, we're doing everything over the internet, which has meant I can talk to people from all over the place. So I'm here in New Brunswick, Canada. Tucker came to us from New Jersey. And it was really a treat to talk to him. We don't have a ton of time. You didn't come here to listen to just me talk. So I will plug my social media. You can find show notes at learndrums.ca. Find me at learndrums on Instagram. I recently discovered, I tried to sign up for TikTok. And I was like, who's this asshole that has LearnDrums registered on TikTok? And then like, oh, they've got an Instagram. So I clicked on it and it was my Instagram. Then I found out that unlike Instagram, you can't have multiple TikTok accounts on one device, or very easily anyway. So and being at my phone is already registered with one that I thought that I would start for like myself as a musician. I'm actually locked out of it. So if you know how to get back into my TikTok account, want to help me out, you message me on Instagram. That number, once again, is at learndrums, info at learndrums.ca. You can find Tucker Rule at Tucker Rule on Instagram. I'm just about out of time. Huge thanks to Wendy Ford for hooking this up. If you're a drummer in need of a publicist, she is great. Cool. All right. Enjoy. Record here before I forget.
All right.
Tucker Rule, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. So you're coming to us from Brooklyn, New York. Is that correct?
I moved from Brooklyn to New Jersey in March. So technically coming to you from the tri-state area, but just the Jersey part of it.
Right. Did you move pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID. I moved into my house March 3rd.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
Yeah.
Did you see it coming or is it coincidence?
I wish I could say I saw it coming.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't even laugh, man. I'm in Canada. I'm in New Brunswick, and like things are just not so bad here. But you read the news out of New York, and it's nuts.
I mean, Canada's where it's at.
In some ways.
Where it's at here in the America. So.
Sure. Cool. All right. Yeah, I mean the cold open is always a little weird. My question I like to ask everybody to start off though is you ready for this? That's not the question.
Okay.
I'm just checking in. Are you ready for this? Sorry.
This.
All right. How old is your Dare shirt?
Oh man, it's got to be 30 years old, 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I've had it for a very long time.
Did you get it from like when the program like came to your school or something?
I got it in a thrift store.
That's where they usually come from.
Probably after it came to my school.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so how did you start playing drums, sir?
So my friend Mike Fullington bought a drum kit when we were in high school and our senior year, and he was supposed to be the drummer. I was supposed to be the singer, and it turns out I couldn't sing, and he didn't like playing drums. So we kind of swapped.
Uh-huh.
I just was like kind of doing some stuff on the hi-hat, and I don't know. I went to a lot of shows when I was a kid, you know, like hardcore shows. So
Sure.
I always watched drummers. So like when I got back there, I kind of knew from watching what they did, you know, and I just fell in love with it. And then I bought the drum kit off of them, and I played, you know, as many days as possible since.
Cool. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in White House Station, New Jersey, which is basically central New Jersey.
Okay. Cool. And so when you say you went to a lot of shows, I'm going to look in the camera now. It's the Zoom thing is always funny, right? You look at the person, you're not looking at them.
You're up there right now.
Yeah. You was it in town, or would you have been going into New York for shows, or what was the deal?
No, I went to New York for a bunch of shows, but New Jersey's small but very dense, and there's a lot of places, a lot of different counties and whatnot. So I remember my mom dropped me off at my first show when I was 14 at this place called City Gardens, which I believe was in Trenton, to see the Bouncing Souls and a band called Yuppie Side, and it was awesome. And I went like by myself. I was 14 years old. And then, you know, a couple of years later, you know, I kept going to shows. I would go with friends. Their parents would drop us off, such and such.
What, if I may interrupt, what kind of venue would this have been?
I mean, some of them were like DIY kind of, like, I guess you could say like Elks Lodges, but this
Sure.
place was a full venue with a small sound system. You know, there was a door person, you know, the whole thing, they had security.
Yeah.
It was a, you know, gritty, you know, kind of punk rock place. But then once I got my driver's license, you know, me and friends would go. We skipped school one day to drive to DC to see Sick of It All. You know, it's just we just the shows skateboarding and going to shows was our thing.
Right. Amazing. And I think those go hand in hand, and I think a lot of people who get into this kind of music, that's the story. So just so I may back up a bit for my audience, I'm going to apologize for my ignorance here, but it's funny. I usually get it in reverse. Like if I go to the U.S., people have no idea where anything in Canada is. And if you're not from like Toronto or Montreal or maybe Vancouver, they just don't know what it is.
Right.
So like you grew up sorry, what was the town called you said?
White House Station, Central Jersey.
Right, White House Station, Central Jersey. So I know that like New York and New Jersey are across the river from each other, but to D.C., how long of a drive is that?
God, must have been 3.5, 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like we were dedicated, you know. If there was something as some gas, we would make it.
Yeah, but for a big enough show, to see a big enough band, like I would do that drive now to see if it was the right band.
Absolutely, same.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Or bad, skip school to do it. You know what I mean?
He has your priorities straight. It clearly didn't do you regret not knowing whatever it is you would have learned that day?
You know what? Maybe it was math because I'm terrible at math. So it could have been the problem that broke it all open for me, but
right.
No such luck.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I'm terrible at math too. So let's back up just a little bit. So you started playing drums in high school.
Yeah.
You grew up in, I'm going to make you say it one, White House Station?
White House Station, yeah.
Okay, White House Station, like the White House.
Yeah.
Now here, if some place is called station, it's because there was a train station there at one point.
There was a train station there, and it's a 50-minute shot straight to New York.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. And how big a city or town is it?
It's a small town, and believe it or not, my high school, like 4 or 5 different towns went to my high school. So my graduating class was like 2,000 people. So I was from a small town, but with a big, we grabbed people from all over and brought it to high school. So
sure. It isn't a curious thing, even population density wise, the U.S. versus Canada. I notice it as soon as I cross the border going. So I'm on the East Coast. I'm in St. John, New Brunswick, about an hour from the Maine border. But okay. I mean, Maine is pretty rural. But as soon as you get to like Massachusetts, you just start hitting big cities.
Yes.
Kind of every couple hours or less. And that's something that doesn't really exist here, except for, you could say, like Southern Ontario, maybe. Mm-hmm. But big stretches of the country, it's just like totally rural. So to be 50 minutes from a major center is still like pretty great.
It's pretty awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
And train, there's no traffic, so it's just you hop on and you're there. The only thing is it's expensive. So if you're like a high school kid, it's unaffordable.
Sure. And so did you grow up with any kind of aspiration to play music? Do you come from a musical family? What was music's role in your life before you started playing?
Well, I really had no aspirations to do music at all. Nobody in my family really played an instrument. My mom played a little bit of piano. I took piano lessons as a kid, but it never stuck with me. I wish it did. I wish I kept up with it.
Me
I don't
too.
know. Skateboarding was such a huge part of my life, and skateboarding opened the door to so many underground bands, like underground hip hop and underground like punk, all kinds of that stuff, So that culture really drew me into music. So, like I would open up Thrasher magazine and see an ad for, I don't know, Del the Funky Homo Sapien or something. And then all of a sudden you turn to the next page and there's an ad for the Bouncing Souls. So it was like I learned all I know from skateboarding, basically, when it comes to music. And that's what got me going to shows.
Yeah, it's an interesting cultural phenomenon that way. How'd you get into skateboarding?
I don't know, man. I played a lot of sports growing up. I came from a sports family. So... Mm-hmm. I got pretty good at football, baseball, and basketball. I'd play them all the time, and I was on a bunch of teams. But then, like, I started, getting the knack for skateboarding, I guess, around 8 or 9 years old. And, once that started, I kind of did both. I did sports and I did skateboarding, and they kind of were parallel for a minute. And then all of a sudden, skateboarding, like, pushed sports out. And then music came in. So it was like skateboarding and music.
Right. Because it's like it's athletic, but you also don't have to be part of a team. You don't have to there arguably is a uniform, but it certainly is more rebellious and maybe less rigid than. It's funny you say that because, and I say this a bunch, but like when I, playing sports and being on a team really taught me in my older life how to be in a band, how to play with other people, so to speak, you know what I mean? And I kind of learned with playing with other people because I never really had a lesson. I'm self-taught. So I took one lesson. That was with Dave Elich, and he's a genius. But we'll get to that. But skateboarding taught me how to sit and practice the drums by myself, because skateboarding is just you and the board, you know what I mean? And you're just learning tricks and stuff like that. You're practicing and, so I kind of use both aspects of my life, and it really taught me kind of how to be in a band situation, Yeah, playing your position is important, and it's something that I think takes people a while to learn too. It's like you can tell the difference between somebody who's seasoned and somebody who is just starting is not only like their ability to play, but also like there's something about their entire approach.
Dude, it's so funny because I learn by listening, you know what I mean? I learn by watching the drummers and then listening to the parts. So then when we go to write our own music, I'm listening to the guitar part, not only just the bass, but I'm listening to the guitar part, trying to find an angular way to approach the riff. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't think like, I don't think you can really be taught that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sort of.
Well, I guess when you're, I don't know, for me, if I was just sitting there just practicing constantly on stuff like that, I don't know if I would develop the ear as quick as I did.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because when we wrote our first record, it was everything I knew on the drums. Okay,
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every lick that I had, I put on that record.
Right. Neat. Yeah, I do think it's a thing of like the more, it's like the danger of practice. Like you can fall into just like playing patterns over and over again, and then thinking that those are it's like, so I grew up in the country. I wanted to skateboard, but there was literally no pavement to skateboard on. But like punk rock was in the culture, like hand in hand with skateboarding. And I was gonna say, it's like interesting that like skateboarders that I know were like equally into punk and hip hop, and like whatever it was about those cultures. Maybe there's like a DIY aspect, or there's like a little bit more of a experimental or whatever aspect. But where I had a point when I started this.
Following, I'm on this journey with you.
Yeah. But there is a danger of, this is what I was going to say. So I grew up reading guitar magazines because I was just interested in music. I started playing drums first, but then I became interested in the guitar after I saw some other kid play it, and like everybody thought he was cool or whatever. And I would get these magazines, and you read about the people who are supposed to be like the greats, and you haven't necessarily heard their music. And it's like a big thing in guitar culture, right? Oh, you know, like you have to, like, well, you're not into Clapton or something. And I'm sure Eric Clapton is great. You know, I've had my moments of liking or being impressed by Eric Clapton, but a lot of the time that stuff is just because that's what you're supposed to be, or somebody like Eric Johnson or somebody who, like, I'm sure he's great. I've never listened to him. I think if you were like deep into the guitar, you might care. But I feel like drum licks and techniques are the same way, and it's funny how it's almost a way that you can tell. Like, I remember this like friend of a friend I used to hang out with a few years ago who was like really into the drums, but like had never been in a band or whatever. But he would always talk about, you know, like, I'm working on these licks, doing like all this hi-hat work and like doing all this stuff. And it's like cool that you're into that, but there's like not a lot of musical application going on. Like, I remember I went over to his place to like jam or whatever, like play some stuff, and he was sorry, Aiden, if you're listening, I'm like totally trashing this guy. He just was early on in his journey, but like it wasn't very groovy. It was very loud, you know? And those are the kind of things that you just learn, I guess, by doing it. But it's like you're saying, like playing your position, learning how to communicate with other people. Okay, so before I get to...
Don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely think that, like, learning your rudiments and all that stuff is important, and practicing is important. But, like, for me, when I would hear a guitar part, my mind would just wander there. Mm-hmm. I'd humming the guitar part, and then, like, I remember being in class and just humming the guitar part, and then, like, tapping and, like, trying to figure out, like, my lick to that guitar part.
Yeah.
Like, that's how it was for me. So I practiced by like taking riffs and humming them, and like that was my practice, like putting what I thought was the best drum part to those licks or something like that. You know what I mean? So and I feel like that's just something that was just for me personally, because maybe it's like a little bit of ADD. Like,
I was just about to ask.
No, so I'm like, ooh, what's that? You know what I mean?
It's a thing I found out recently that I have ADD, and I just didn't know it because I like got fine grades and wasn't like hyperactive as a kid. But I read this book. It's called "You Mean I'm Not Lazy, Stupid, or Crazy," and it came out in the '90s. Like some of the language in it is dated, but one of the symptoms of people with kind of like low, like subtle ADD is they tap on stuff.
Oh boy.
Yeah, right? Or like hyper focus on something you're interested in, and like zero interest in stuff that is just not appealing, or whatever.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so was that your first band then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, technically, my first band was a straight edge hardcore band called Turnbuckle. That was where I was the singer and the drummer was, and then that's where we swapped.
Mm-hmm.
So Thursday became my second band, I guess you could say.
Really?
Yeah.
So, okay, let's we'll back up just a little bit. How long had you been going to shows for before you started your own band?
Probably I went to my first show at 14 and started playing drums at, I guess, 17-ish. And myself and my friend Tom started the band in 1999. So I guess I was 18, 19.
Right.
And then, yeah, so I guess like 2 years. But I learned everything from, like I said, everything that was on that first record called Waiting was everything that I knew how to play on drums.
Right. And all from watching other people.
Yeah, and like listening and just playing my favorite records and just trying to like, I guess like borrow the ideas and turn them into my own. Kind of like melt something that was like,
absolutely
like based. But like grabbing from all my idols. You know what I mean?
Sure. I would say it's like sound like it's pretty tight and pretty proficient for somebody who's just learning. Like, were you like when you got into it, did you go deep? Like, were you like a practice guy?
Yeah, I went deep. And like I said, when, I appreciate you saying it's proficient because I really I noticed myself even in the early days, like really before we record, I would like know exactly what I was playing.
You would have your parts worked out.
Yeah, like I made sure that like everything was like as efficient as possible. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of stuff that I didn't have it figured out when I was younger, that's for sure. But like I knew what overplaying was, and because I couldn't overplay, because I wasn't good enough, I tried to play exactly what I thought matched. Like every angle of the guitar, I tried to put something there to nuance it, you know what I mean? And then I also tried to put ghost notes in because I like this band called Quicksand, and their drummer Alan Cage did a lot of ghost notes on this record called Slip. And I was like, oh man, that's sick. I want to learn how to do that. So I would put that in there and try to fill space, but not try to step on anyone,
Yeah, totally. Well, so that's on my list of questions is like kind of what the writing process is. To talk about Quicksand for a second, they were a band. Did they have 2 records and then they kind of disappeared for a bit?
They had 2 records that kind of disappeared. Then they put out a 3rd record, which is awesome. I think they put it out 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, that band like can literally do no wrong. They're my favorite band on the planet, and like, great people and fantastic music and timeless and all of that stuff. All of the.
Have you gotten to play with them since then?
Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
When and where?
So, back in the early days when Quicksand had kind of broken up, I guess you could say, we did a tour with a band called Rival Schools, which Walter Streifel sings for Quicksand. He also sings for Rival Schools. So that was like kind of hanging out with one of your heroes on tour, when he was in a different band. And then fast forward to about 2 years ago when Quicksand kind of reformed to put out their new record, we did a Australian tour with them.
Cool.
So pretty awesome. We played with them a bunch over the years, so it's on their comeback stuff. So it's been like really humbling just to watch. Like literally, you're just playing alongside your favorite band.
Your favorite band. Yeah. They're a band that I got into relatively recently, but the new album had come out at that time, so it was like you were able to kind of track the progression pretty quickly. Yeah. Would they again? Please pardon my ignorance. Would they also be somewhat of a local band for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like New York hardcore for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Walter also plays in Gorilla Biscuits,
Yeah.
so it's like, it's very deep rooted in the hardcore scene, so it's, of course, Sergio plays in the Deftones, so that's another one of, a band that's near and dear to my heart. So it's very, like, I don't know, I just love what they do.
Right.
And Alan as a drummer is just fantastic. He's one of those, like, put everything there for a reason.
Yeah. That's what's so cool about it. And it was like refreshing when I heard their latest record too, to have a band come out in this day and age sounding like that. This is their new album, and it's like all the things that I like, well executed. It's like doesn't sound like old and tired and like
Totally.
Yeah. All right. So Turnbuckle was a straight edge hardcore band. Are you still straight edge?
No. However, drink or smoke or do drugs, so.
But it's just not a policy.
It's just not a policy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And you switched to drums and then that begat Thursday.
Yes.
And you said you were 18, 19, so you would have been out of high school at that time.
Yes.
Were you in Canada? We would say university. In America, I know people say college. Were you doing that? Were you hanging around in town?
I did. I went to a community college for 2 years, and I got my associates, and then I went and I lived in New Brunswick. Funny that
right, New Brunswick, New Jersey, yeah.
New Brunswick, New Jersey, where I lived in a house with a bunch of people that went to Rutgers.
Yep.
And that's where, like, my bass player Tim, my singer Jeff, my guitar player Tom, they all went to Rutgers. So we would come to my house and jam and, write Thursday songs and such. Because we started writing Thursday songs in my mom's attic. Then we started writing songs in Jeff's basement. Mm-hmm. And then we continued writing in the house in New Brunswick. But funny enough, the reason why we actually started a band was because my singer Jeff, in his house in New Brunswick, he had basement shows. Like his house, it was 331 Somerset Street. It was the place to go in New Jersey to play a DIY hardcore basement show. So we basically started a band so we could play his basement and play with the bands that would come through town, like At the Drive-In, Hot Water Music, Saves the Day, you name it.
Amazing. Like, how would you not want to be part of that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Who am I thinking of? Who else is from New Brunswick, New Jersey?
Midtown.
Uh-huh.
From New Brunswick.
It's not them. There's a heavier band.
I mean, there's a lot.
It doesn't really matter. Yeah.
From New Jersey. Not necessarily New Brunswick, but New Jersey.
Yeah, totally. New Jersey hardcore. And also, I think, like, kind of legendarily, like, a lot of bands make it in New York, or a lot of entertainers, artists, let's say, make it in New York but aren't necessarily from there. But New Jersey is kind of like a secret hotbed.
Yes, for sure.
So Thursday started out playing basement shows.
Oh, yeah.
Wild.
We booked a tour where we had to, like, call the person that was putting on the show the morning of the drive and be like, hey, we're still having the show tonight because we have, like, a 9-hour drive. Like, you're going to be there, right? And the kid would be like, oh, yeah. Come on by. And we'd, like, show up to his mom's house, and, like, there'd be, like, 7 friends over, and we'd have to play this show. So that was, and before cell phones.
Yeah, so, right. Yeah, there wasn't, like, would those have been message boards days, though?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. If that was your scene. So, okay, how long before, like, how long from the basement to the van? How long before you went on your first tour?
Oh, man,
It's like, I know we're reaching back. Sorry, my phone's just dinging.
No,
here.
no worries.
Shut it up.
I mean, I would say a couple of months. I remember, like, getting our first tour dates, and, like, I remember, like, getting a really nice pen, cheap pen, but a nice pen, and writing them all out on a piece of paper and, like, putting them up in my room and, like, looking at all there was, like, 20 dates or something like that. And I was just like, whoa, this is crazy.
So exciting.
And we took 2 cars. We took a minivan and then another car. And it was
that's so cute.
Pretty bare bones.
Yeah. But there's something like wholesome and endearing about that.
Yeah, nothing mattered. You know what I mean? Like, we had just enough money to scrape by to eat, and we just wanted to play shows. And there's nothing really glamorous about driving all day to play for 30 minutes in front of 7 people. You know what I mean? But we did it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think at that age, like the doing it is like kind of the magic of it, and the fact that this life is available. It opens something up for you. Like
absolutely, and like it we slept on people's floors, and
Yep.
it was crazy. It was just a crazy time, and it was fun. And we, I remember eating like the sandwich, because I was vegetarian. I am vegetarian, but I remember like getting hot dog buns and putting mustard in it, and like that was my meal.
Yeah. My friend Trevor, he was in a band called Scum Grief up here that they no longer exist, but they had a record called Fuck Sports, which is just like a great title. But anyway, he's vegan. Yeah, mustard foldies. That's a staple for him.
Back then, man, it was hard. Vegetarian food was not really popular, so it was like you couldn't really find anything. If you were going to a truck stop, you were eating either like combos, or if you're vegan, you're eating like maybe nuts. I don't know. That's
or like crackers. If you got to be able to read the ingredients.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nuts maybe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So, but 20 dates for a first tour is pretty good.
It was very good. It was a lot of fun, man. I can't lie. It was a lot of fun, but it definitely was like. Definitely wasn't the idea that I had in my mind. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have anything glamorous in my mind, but I also, it was rigorous, but fun.
Yeah, no kidding. So would that have been like going down the East Coast or something? That would be my guess based on where you are geographically.
I feel like we went, down the East Coast through Florida, and then somehow kind of back up through Ohio, because Jeff's grandparents lived in Ohio. Yeah. From what that was the routing. I mean, we were literally like using an atlas, so.
Right, of course, because there's no Google Maps. There's nothing. Yeah, the dark ages.
The dark ages, exactly.
The dark ages of the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Carrier pigeons.
Yeah, right. Smoke signals.
Yeah.
Okay, so you back. So how long until you start recording from that point? Like how did things pick up for Thursday from this point of DIYing it across?
So we kind of wrote like 3 or 4 songs. My friend, singer Jeff, had a buddy who owned a studio called Big Blue Meanie, and we went in and kind of made like a demo it was my first time ever being in a studio, first time ever hearing my drums recorded back. So it was a wild experience. 3 songs, maybe 4 songs, whatever. And then shortly thereafter, we kind of played a few more shows, and my friend Gabe Saporta came out to the first ever Thursday show. And Gabe used to be in Midtown and Cobra Starship, and I think he manages a bunch of big bands now, but and he was like, I got this friend Alex who runs this label called Eyeball. I'm sure he would love to put out a record of yours. So we kind of went into the studio shortly thereafter and recorded Waiting, and it came out on Eyeball. And then Eyeball, it sold okay. People were into it, and like Midtown let us come up during one of their sets and play a song during one of their big shows with I believe they played with At the Drive-In and Voice It's Fire. They let Thursday come up and play a song during their set. And then we went in the studio and recorded Full Collapse, and had no idea the sort of impact that record would have on anybody, including ourselves.
Yeah.
And I remember recording that record sick as a dog. I had strep throat and I could barely talk, and I was feverish, and there was cough drop wrappers all over the floor, broken drumsticks, cough drop wrappers. It would look like I was a garbage person, garbage human being, I should say.
Yeah.
And we shortly thereafter, Chris from Saves the Day and Converge both at the same time asked us to open a U.S. tour with them, which we loved Converge. We loved Saves the Day. And the Saves the Day tour just made more sense.
Why was that?
It was just like Saves the Day, Hey Mercedes, Thursday. It just made more sense. I feel like we wanted to do the Converge tour as well, but like there was more dates on the Saves the Day tour, so it made more sense routing wise for us too, and just in the schedule. But right before we got the offer for that tour, we did a video because our guitar player Steve, he went to film school and such, and had a bunch of friends that had cameras, and we kind of went to North Carolina and like for like $2,000 or $1,500 shot a music video for Understanding the Car Crash, not thinking we would do anything with it, not thinking that people would ever really see it, so we get on the Saves the Day tour opening, and some people came out early to see us, and the video started to come out and people saw it on MTV, and then halfway through the tour people started singing along and things started getting a little crazy. And then by the end of that tour, which was an amazing tour, like Saves the Day and Hey Mercedes just crushed it every night. It was such a joy to watch those two bands. But then shortly thereafter, we were kind of ready for, to do it on our own. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily a headlining tour as big as the Saves the Day tour, but, to have bands open for us.
Right.
So it got big kind of quickly.
It is a pretty quick transition to have that happen, but also it's funny that I know it's like you never see it in hindsight, but like to think that would like become an iconic track from an era, and
it's funny too, because the record had already been out. Like Victory had put it out, and we video after the record came out. So it wasn't like we're like, all right, let's set it up, let's do this video and we'll put the record out, push it. It was like, no, we have this video and, maybe we should throw it up. And then like MTV picked it up. And so it just got weird.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask, so it wouldn't be like now where you put it on YouTube and so what is it like? How does MTV pick up a video? How did you release it, and then how did they get a hold of it?
I don't know. I feel like the band started picking up a little bit of steam, and I feel like somebody contacted us and asked for it or something. Like somebody asked somebody the label, and they gave it to MTV. I really don't remember, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, I'm curious because so here in Canada, we have a bunch of music, and there was a phenomenon in the 90s of if you were a Canadian band, you could just send in your video and they would play it, and you wouldn't expect them to, but there's Canadian content regulations, and they're just looking for stuff. So bands would get their videos, just like you literally could send it into the station and they would play it. But I would think that MTV serving a bigger market would be a little bit tougher to crack.
I feel something tells me I feel like maybe Saves the Day had put out a video or something, and they had asked us, or somebody had asked us. I don't really remember, to be honest with you. I just remember the video somehow coincided with that tour in a weird way, where the band started growing on the tour, and we were in front of an audience that probably would like our band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of like-minded things happening in the room.
Sure. And so could you, as the tour went on, could you, I guess you said kind of midway through people are starting to sing along, and but could you would watch your audience grow as kind of things are progressing?
Yeah. It was kind of weird. And, it's also, I didn't really understand it either. It's like, when you're back there playing the drums, you don't really see what's happening.
No.
In the crowd, but I would notice there's almost like an energy you can feel. Like when people are singing along, there's nothing like it,
Yeah, I know, it's amazing.
Yeah, so there was a feeling about it too. I can't really explain it, but it was wild.
Yeah, very cool. Now, so to me, when I think of Thursday recordings, I think of huge sounds. So it's funny to picture the band being playing to 7 people, because it's even sonically doesn't make sense. But so in terms of writing, how would you put the songs together? I know you'd mentioned putting apart to kind of complement the riffs, which makes sense because it seems like to me it's like very like 16th notes, like subdivisions, like really really rhythmic, but with guitars kind of over here like doing like, I was gonna sing some guitar stuff, but like picking kind of high stuff.
Well, we all kind of, everything happens without lyrics, without the vocals. So, and Jeff's a big writer in the band as well. He plays guitar, and he's a very integral part of the writing process. So somebody would bring in a riff, and I would put my first best guess beat to it, and then kind of just keep throwing parts and keep trying out things, and and with that stuff, I always felt like as a drummer, usually your first best guess is probably the closest you're going to get.
Sure.
To the right part, because then you start overthinking it and dissecting things too much, and then all of a sudden you have a math problem you can't play. You know what I mean? So, just kind of like coming in with like a riff, playing it, moving on to a next part, and then like kind of looping that next part to make it where everybody can kind of find their footwork in there. And and vocals, I think still to this day, I don't hear vocals until we're in the studio and he's singing. Yeah.
How do you know when it's settled? How do you know when you've got the part?
You just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
We've always been that band that kind of like, when your hair sticks up, then it's right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we always kind of pride ourselves on like the music should stand up on its own, as if we were kind of an instrumental band.
Yeah.
And then the vocals should just be like this poetic, the sprinkles on top. You know what I mean? Like, because Jeff is a brilliant, wordsmith.
Yeah. So one thing I was speaking of, I'm going to ask about. There also seems to be like lyrically, I like a folk rock undercurrent sometimes. Is there a folk rock aspect of Thursday we don't know about?
I mean, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I mean, Jeff is a mysterious fellow.
Okay.
If you can't find him, that means he's reading.
Oh, really?
Really find him. So he's always reading.
Yeah.
There's always some sort of spark that's going on in that boy's brain. You know what I mean? So I don't ask because I know it's going to be something that I love.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's nice for him in the sense of, I would say a few things. Like he's free lyrically in that sense that you guys give him a canvas to paint on, but also melodically because you're not really waiting for him to kind of dictate how it's going to go, or really putting that on him as a vocalist. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of this band is over the years, as we all kind of gotten more technically proficient, there's a lot of trust. I always trust that Tom and Steve are going to, crush it on the guitars. I always trust that Tim on the bass, he's the best player in the band by far, by leaps and bounds. Our bass player, Tim, is just phenomenal. So it's just, we all kind of like trust each other to like hold up our end of the bargain, if you will.
Sure. Do you think that is also an important aspect of just keeping a band together in general?
I mean, I think so. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what keeps a band together and what breaks them apart. I mean, even when Thursday kind of went on hiatus or kind of broke up, we never stopped liking each other as people. It was just a point where we financially couldn't do it. We were on the road too much to be home to get jobs to supplement our addiction, which is playing music. You know what I mean? So we just kind of had to. It was either eat or play music, and people got to eat. So
sure.
But I don't know. I don't know what trust is a big thing when it comes. Musical trust is a big deal, for sure. But there's so many obstacles in this industry, as you know. It's an impossible industry.
Well, it is. Yeah. I mean, and that's part of it. I think too. where it can become really I was gonna say really emotional, but it's like it's not a great description. But really, you can get really upset about it because, like, number one, it's so hard to do. Number two, it's like this thing that the only reason that you would do it is you care so deeply about it. So if somebody else is going to, if you perceive that your bandmate is like sabotaging or undermining, like this thing that you're working so hard at and putting so much into, like, it's easy to really be upset with someone.
Absolutely, especially in a situation where you're in a van or in a bus, you're like sleeping next to them, you're working with them, you're eating meals with them, you're fighting with each other's girlfriends because they're on the phone right next to you. You know what I mean? Like you're there, you're in it the whole entire way. And then you say the emotional part, like that's like, we always used to say, like, don't read the reviews. You put a record out, don't read the reviews, because for every good one, there's one that's real fucking bad.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like hateful, like purposely hateful.
Right. Well, and I would think also, like, you guys would be working in a genre of music that it's like you've got real diehards, and then you've got like people who just hate it straight up.
Dude, as soon as you put the term emo in front of something, people get like this idea that you're just like these weepy, whatever the fuck, stereotype goes along with that. I'm not going to say it's not fair, because who the fuck cares? But it's just like, everything needs a label, obviously. Just we don't want to put a label on things, but I guess everything needs a label for people to classify.
Well, and you find out pretty quickly trying to work in the music industry. It's like if you say, we don't really sound like anyone else, or like, we just do our own thing, we try to be creative. Like, no one wants to hear that. They want you to label and package yourself.
Absolutely. You're either like, we sound like, Guns N' Roses, you know what I mean? Or it's like, once you say like, we don't sound like anyone else, it's like, well, I don't know where to put you.
No, and they also don't believe you, because it just shows that you are an amateur or just new to this.
Yeah.
That you would say that to somebody and have, unless you are really making music that actually doesn't fit into a genre, which most of us aren't. It's like, did you build your own instruments?
Unless you invented this crazy instrument that like no one ever before, then I get it,
Yeah, but usually it came from somewhere. Yeah, we're like the Dead Kennedys meets Milli Vanilli, or like something. It's like, but it is funny, like, and that kind of descriptor, like that kind of a hook is actually, if you can find one, like, that will work for you. I know, like, we always had that problem, my old band, and it also is like, even within a scene, people don't necessarily want you to be too creative, because then they don't know how to categorize you, they don't know who to book you with, they don't know how to pitch you, they don't know where to put you on a festival. Like, there's all kinds of problems with trying to be too creative. It also just weirds out an audience.
Totally.
But this isn't like when we started out, we were doing a lot of odd time signature stuff. And it's like you learn, it took us a couple of years, but it's like you learn that like people can't dance to it, they just leave.
Right.
There's like dudes who like to count bars that will be into your band, but that's who your audience ends up being. What's that?
But not many, dudes will be able to count that, you know what I mean? And be like, when people ask me, like people that have never heard the band before, and they're like, "Oh, what kind of music do you play?" I'm like, I always just say rock.
Yep.
But if they ask like more, like if they're like, "Well, what kind of rock? Like rock like what?" I'm like, "Oh, it's kind of like post-hardcore. That's my next go."
Yep.
Then it's like, "Well, what's that?" It's like, "Oh, well, it's kind of like punk but heavier." Oh, like Ramones? I'm like, "Well, I guess people call it emo, because it's like melodic as well." And so I go down the list, and emo is always the last thing that, like, if I get tortured with the question, that's my last.
But you don't want to get tagged or labeled first, and it's not your fault.
No.
but it
know,
is so. Well, but it also is just, there was a phase and a style and
A haircut.
A haircut. Yeah. Yeah, a belt color.
A belt color.
A fit of jeans.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bless all of them.
Oh, sure, of course. Yeah, I swam in those waters. Cool. Okay, so you put out sorry, so it was Waiting was your first
Yes.
your first record, but was it an EP or a full album?
It was a full album.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people didn't. That wasn't the first record they heard. You know,
it wasn't
what I mean?
the first one I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you put out your first proper record. You're ready to headline. Is everything just rosy for Thursday for the next several years? It's interesting to hear you talk about like going on tour and needing to get jobs, because I, like many people that you may run into, would have just assumed that you guys would be beyond that.
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't know. We're from New Jersey, so we're never beyond anything.
Sure.
Blue collar, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like when things were going well, when Full Collapse was out, yes, we were making money and things were good, and then you're off tour and then all of a sudden you're getting knocks on the door from majors, and the only way to leave Victory, who were kind of not doing the right thing by us at the time, Victory Records, the loophole in the contract was the only way we could leave was to be bought out by a major label. So Island Def Jam bought us out. We started writing War all the time. Things were going really well. We get on tour. The record starts doing well. It debuts pretty high on the Billboard charts or whatever. And, things seem to be going really well. And again, making money. Things are good. And, music is my living, and this is my passion, my everything, so we get to the end of that record cycle. We start making A City by the Light Divided. All of a sudden, we get a call that everybody that worked at Island Def Jam is now leaving.
Any particular reason?
I'm not sure. I always say it's the revolving door of the music industry. It's
that happens for sure.
But this was a whole regime switch. Like Leor Cohen left and took the whole team, and then L.A. Reid came in and took over Island. So we're like a couple of months into the record being out and sold maybe 100,000 of that record, and we're on Warped Tour headlining, one of the headliners on Warped Tour or whatever. Things are going well, and we get a call like, oh, we're gonna cut the funding of the record. You know what I mean? We're not gonna pay for any more advertising because you've only sold 100,000 records or whatever in your first couple weeks or months.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Right.
1,000 records. That's so many records.
I know, it's a lot.
I know, and this was right as people stopped making money from records. You know what I mean? Like we kind of were like Full Collapse and War all the Time are just at the tipping point of where people didn't make any money off records.
Yeah, well, because you were living through this shift in the music industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like the perfect storm of everything bad happening. We're on tour, we're working our asses off, holding up our end of the bargain, but we're with a label that is a whole regime switch. They're very nice people. They're trying to do right by us, but we just were never their baby. They kind of adopted us, but didn't sign the papers. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh, well, we're going to cut funding. We still want you to be with us, but, we just don't know what to do with you. So you can either stay or you can leave. You don't have to fulfill the contract. We'll let you go. Clean slate. And we left on good terms, but we left. But it was weird because the record was out and it was doing okay, and we still had quote unquote a little heat behind us.
So it's weird to have that relationship with your label at that point.
Yeah. We didn't have even our A&R dude left, so we really had no one, to kind of field the questions or like be the liaison between, you know, the us and the new people, you know. So then we kind of got done with Warped Tour, and things were still going well, but you know, things were declining. You know, it's obvious, like everything, you know. But at the peak, you know, you never think like things are gonna start going downhill. You're just like, oh man, this is what it's like. This is what it's like to be in a band and be successful.
We've arrived. Well, I know, because it's everybody's fantasy or everybody's dream when you start playing.
Yeah.
That is going to be your life, and then that's just it. You're gonna be Aerosmith or something, or you're just gonna like ride it forever.
We didn't write anything different. We didn't do anything different. We were just the same people doing the same thing that we do. Like,
yep.
You know, you write songs that you think are good and that make your hair stick up, and then you take them to the stage and you bleed and spit and give everything that you have for the people in the front and the people all the way back.
Yeah.
Because well, you know how to do it, because you learn from going to hardcore shows where that's how it works. That's what music is. You know what I mean? To us, still, that's what music is.
Well, and if you're not doing that, then you are being insincere, and then is it even worth it? How can you live with yourself? You know, like, do you feel like you are even, is it even worth doing if you're not approaching it that way?
I mean, for this band, no.
Yeah.
You know, but that's kind of where the decline started happening. And then, you know, we let ourselves go. We got let go or let ourselves go from Island. And then the people at Epitaph, the great people at Epitaph, kind of took us in. And that was really great. You know, great label, great stuff. And
my understanding is that they are a great label to work for.
Yeah, they really are. So I've never to work for or work with.
Work with, I guess. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean.
I'm sure they're great to work. Well, I'm sure they're. You know, I would love to work at Epitaph if I ever, you know, could.
Yeah.
But they were a great label to work with. You know, they kind of understood the band. But again, you know, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, we know what the record's going to do, and we're going to get you there. But then, you know, not much more.
Right. Which
is fine. You know, it's a big indie label, but that's they got to make money too. You know, and things need to go. And
well, so, and they. Sorry.
No,
I was just going to say, like, they know that market because they've been working it so long, and they are very, as opposed to a major where, like, yes, you have people working in every lane of music. As you, I mean, I've never been on a major label, but I do pay attention. And so your person leaves, and then who's left? If your record is not a priority, then like in any other workplace that you've got, like, well, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have somebody in there, and that's true in any area of the music business, if you don't have somebody representing you and in some cases explaining to the people there why this matters,
totally.
Then it's Go ahead.
Artists that are selling millions, and then you're seeing artists that are missing a zero on that. You know, the dollars and cents don't lead up. So it's like, well, we got to, you know what I mean? Got to get rid of this band.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, even like, I just remember the story about the Beastie Boys changing labels and recording Paul's Boutique and expecting it to be this big thing. And then the label's like, maybe next time. You know, and that was it.
Dude, it's crazy. The music industry is a very, very wonderful place, but it's also, you know, there's a reason why there are, you know, peaks and very valleys that are very dark, more like dark alleys. You know what I mean? Like it's
right.
There's no middle ground, I feel.
No, it really seems that, and particularly now, and I think especially like, I don't know where we're headed, but my read on the thing was like, once the money started draining out, people became more risk averse. They only want to invest in stuff that is like most likely, because you can never guarantee anything, but more likely to make money.
Sorry, I had to move my chair because my phone is like dying, but I got the charger.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah. Okay. So you guys put out you guys put out that record with Epitaph. Did you sign like a one album deal?
I can't remember, to be
Yeah.
honest. But we put two more records out. We put out Common Existence and then No Devolution.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Both with
and that
Epitaph?
both with Epitaph, yeah.
Yep.
But that was, things were kind of getting tough again. Like show attendance wasn't really great anymore, and we did this tour with called The Taste of Chaos, and we were headlining, and it was Pierce the Veil opening, 4 Years Strong, Bring Me the Horizon, then Thursday.
Yeah.
And that was right when Bring Me the Horizon was getting big in the States. So people were leaving after Bring Me the Horizon. Like even with Bring Me the Horizon, the show attendance wasn't doing well. So it was like things just were getting weird. And that was when like they cut the rider to where it was just like water, basically. Right. So it was like being in prison, musical prison. And we kind of got done with that tour, and we still loved playing music, but it was starting to be not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like the energy wasn't there anymore from the crowd, and I kind of think we felt like we just didn't feel like giving anything back at that time either. You know what I mean? So we kind of made the decision to kind of put it down. Which was tough because,
of course,
for so many years that was my whole identity. Tucker
Yeah.
from Thursday. That's who I was. I wasn't that. I felt like that's how people knew me, and I felt like that's all I was.
It probably is how you knew yourself. It also is your entire
100%.
life.
Yeah.
So like you got to find something else to do. You got to find a different way to. And also, did you feel? I know, like our lead singer went through this when our band split up. I didn't as much. But like, did you also feel like you like walk out the front door and people just know?
People know.
You're just like, I was this guy in this like band and things were really popping, and now they're all like, everybody knows,
Well, I mean, I never really felt that way too much because, I being in the hot seat on the drums,
Yeah.
you get to be like the least known sometimes, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I definitely, when the band broke up, I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do. And there was always a sense that like, I know I had friends and acquaintances that probably felt bad for me, cause I definitely wasn't in a good way when that happened. I definitely was distraught, and it's like going through a really bad breakup or losing family members, because essentially these people are your family, your brothers, your sisters, whatever, and that was like kind of gone. And I waking up and seeing them every day to now waking up kind of alone without them, and it's a learning curve, and I didn't know what was going to be next for me. So I didn't know if music was going to be, if I was going to have to get like a regular job, or if I was going to continue to do music, or if that was even a lucrative thing anymore, because I had such a bad taste in my mouth with how it went down,
Sure, of course. Yeah. Like, if you like, do I want to sign myself up for more of this? Like,
yeah.
And especially as a drummer, I mean, your option is to play with somebody else, but it's like, it's hard to just go out and, like, you can't be self-contained in the same way as some, if you're a singer-songwriter or whatever, you can just go and you can be a solo act now. People know you as the guy from the band.
However, I had the bright idea that it was going to be my goal after that to play for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
To like not have to make decisions, to not have to like worry about t-shirts designs or anything. Not that I worried about it so much when I was in the band before, because I remember there was a point where I was like, I'm not making any more decisions. I just want to play the drums.
Yeah.
But, not having to worry about like show attendance or anything like that, or, people singing along, like just getting paid to play drums was like, that was going to be my next goal.
Sure.
So
yeah, because when you own it, like you have to worry about all that stuff to some degree.
And when you do music for long enough, you don't really develop other life skills, such as like, learning the newest computer language, or, knowing how to, be a tax person, whatever the job is, the adult job could be.
Well, and the thing is, too, this is a debate of like nature or nurture or whatever, but also it's like, are you cut out to be a tax person? I don't think I am.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely not, because
Yeah.
like we talked about earlier, both of us are terrible at numbers.
Yeah, math. And it's funny that like, rhythm is all subdivision, and so it should. But yeah, I'm awful with numbers.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out a tip the other night, and I was like, couldn't do it.
Yeah. Thank God for these phones.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry, I just cut you off there.
No. No worries.
So the band decides. Now, did you decide to break up, or was it like we're gonna press pause on this?
I mean, in my mind, it was always pressing pause, but we definitely broke up.
Right.
But I always knew that one day it would come back, because like I said, we didn't break up being like, fuck you, or, pardon my French, but like, we kind of were just like, yeah, love you guys, is what it is,
Yeah.
So I always knew that there was a chance that we would do it again. And I never put down that thought in the back of my head. So I don't know if this was like an actual decision I made in my head, or if it's just something underlying, but like I kind of decided to stay in music thinking that would come back around at some point. So.
Sure. I mean, and also it's like, it's been proven that there is an audience and people that are interested. Do you think that part of what happened, like, obviously it's like there are, shifts in the music industry, there's like your people disappearing from the label, but is there also, and just like fans age out faster than musicians do. Do you think there's a certain amount of like people who were going to shows and were really passionate, maybe they're just like doing other things now, and then people aren't coming up through the same channel, so they're not catching on in the same way, or what do you think?
I mean, I don't know. It's like, I had a baby in March, at the end of March. So I know for me, if there was not a pandemic right now, there would have to be a really good show for me to be able to leave the house.
Right.
To go see it. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's a lot, for a lot of people that grew up with my band, they're all of the age where they're probably married or in, having kids or whatever it is, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Having a real job, it's, when we started doing well, we were still kids ourselves.
Yep.
And the kids that were coming to see us were actually kids, like teenagers.
Well, exactly. Like you're in your 20s, so like things kind of don't matter. They're teenagers. They just want to go out and have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know it's funny. Even the trend towards, I mean, I guess it's a couple of years ago I was having this conversation now, but just like a local bar in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where I was living, just having early shows, like 8 to 10 or whatever. And looking around and like going to see a band and the place is full and thinking like how great this is that, it's not 1 a.m. But also it's like, talking to a friend, it's like, yeah, we're all getting older and this is what we like now.
Dude, I've been trying for years to get put on our rider. Like we don't play after 8:30. Like that's the latest that we go on. Like none of these like 10:10 at night is our set time. It's like, fuck that. Like I want to be on the bus by like 10:30.
Yeah, no kidding.
Bed. I want the purple bag of Doritos. I want like
Bold barbecue.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. I that's just what I want, and
that's
nothing else. I don't want to be on stage at midnight.
Yeah, sweating because then you're like up until 4 a.m. or whatever, just because you're so amped up from playing.
Yeah, you're jacked up.
Yeah.
Also, like I want to be able to like maybe spend time with some friends who might have come to the show after the show. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to hang out with them beforehand. I don't want to hang out beforehand. I don't like that.
Yep.
I'm too in the zone. I'm, doing my own. I'm doing real life before the show.
Yeah.
Then you play the show, and then you're off by maybe 10:30. Then you can at least go to, have a fourth meal. You know what I mean? Like a late dinner. None of this like get off stage at 12, and then you're like, oh well, it's fucking tomorrow already. So.
Yeah, and everybody's gone because they didn't want to wait. I know it's the worst. It sucks too. Like going to a town where some people live who you haven't seen in a while. And you right, like before it's weird because if you do hang out too, then it's like the show is weird. Like I'm in a weird headspace when I got to start playing.
And then you have your parents come or something like that. It's like, you don't want your mom driving home from the show at midnight. I'd rather her drive from, be like, all right, 10:30, you're not going to fall asleep at the wheel. Like, we're good.
Yeah, and I didn't make you stay here until midnight or whatever. Yeah. I remember a show years ago now, but in Charlottetown, PEI, and my brother's band was opening, and my parents came out to see us, and we would put this was like playing, early days playing in a club, and we would put 10 o'clock on the poster because that's what you do. But the local guys are like, nobody's going to show up before midnight, so we can't play before that. And my parents and my aunt and uncle are sitting there for 2 hours waiting for the show to start, and then having to drive home.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah,
and they're just supporting. They don't love the music. They're just there to see their kids prosper and do something that actually makes them smile.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and I'm not going to go into the questioning of the life decisions right now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
Right. Okay. So back to reality. Your band, switching gears. This is another ADD thing, right? It's just like it'll just disappear sometimes.
Yeah. Believe me.
Yeah. So you guys go on hiatus, and your plan is to play drums for somebody you don't know who.
Yeah.
And that turns out to be.
That turns out to be a stint with a band called Murphy's Law, which is a legendary hardcore band from New York City. So I did that, and at the same time, I was put in touch from one of the old people at Island that we worked with this boy band from England called The Wanted.
Right.
And they were massive in England, and no one had really heard them in America yet, so I kind of got hired to play their what do you call it when you showcase. Yeah, I got hired to play the showcase and to put the band together. So I got to choose a guitar player and a bass player. So of course I chose my friends.
Yeah.
Who were good at playing. I didn't just say let me choose, this person and Joe Schmo,
Yeah, I've seen a bass before.
I picked people that I knew would not make me look bad.
Right. Well, that's kind of cool. You get to be musical director.
They had a musical director. They had their keyboard player came with them. This awesome man named David Whitney. He's amazing. That's above my pay grade. And musical director. Don't get me wrong here. But yeah, so I felt pressure to pick the right people, and thankfully I picked the right people, and I ended up doing that for 4 years, and it was the best. The boys, the singers were amazing. They're great people and still friends of ours today. And
it would be so different, I would think.
It was so much different, and it was a discipline, you know what I mean, which I really enjoyed. It was, I really think that even if music sounds simple, especially on the drums, it's never simple. You know what I mean? It's that kind of discipline. It was a lot of dance beats and stuff like that, and the discipline of hitting the kick and snare at the same time, not having it flam. Mm-hmm. And also we did so many television shows, any television show you can imagine, Dancing with the Stars, The Voice, Ellen DeGeneres, you name it. We did all of except for Saturday Night Live, we did all the major TV shows, Letterman.
Wild.
So, and that's crazy I did Conan O'Brien with Thursday, and so I knew that the pressure, but to do these, when you're hired to be perfect, quote unquote, as perfect as you can be, it's a lot of pressure. So I was kind of thrown into that and learned very quickly, the discipline of trying to be as proficient and on as I can, because there was so much live television, and obviously it's your hands get sweaty and
Yeah, well, and it's especially as the guy who's there, if you do your job, nobody notices you. if you fuck it up, everyone notices you.
Everybody notices. Yeah. And like everyone's expecting, and also like a lot of these shows too, a lot of these television things, it's like you're learning a song the night before, or you're taking that song and you're cutting parts because of time or whatever it is. So it's like you have to like learn it in a different way than you're used to playing it every single night.
Yep.
So there's always that too, where it's like, well, don't forget the addendum or the subtraction. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. How are you with arrangements that way? Like, is that tough for you to do, or can you just kind of like?
Luckily, I'm not very good at reading music or anything like that. But my memory, I've always prided myself on my memory. I got very lucky somehow in life that things I can hear it a few times and I can play it close enough.
Cool. That's a valuable skill.
For sure. And I don't know who gave it to me or how I acquired it, but I'm grateful for it. So it's been a lifesaver to me, and it's basically the thing that has kept me going in this industry, because I can now really fake it until I make it. You know what I mean? If somebody asks me to do something and I say yes, even if I don't know if I can do it, I know I can do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can figure it out. And also, like, would you say what I kind of interpreted that as, so I'm just checking, would you mean like you can play it before it feels comfortable, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I will be able to remember enough to where, like, if we step into rehearsal, like, I'll know the parts.
Right.
And then like one or two times going through it, it's like, all right, now it's kind of in there. So
that's a good skill, man. I really struggle with that. My like secret weapon is like, it'll take me forever to learn a tune, but once I got it, I'll never forget it. I could like not play it for a couple years, and it'll come right back. But like the learning
also
process is tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you have been playing with tracks with that band?
Yes.
Yeah. How had you done that before?
I did it once before in 2007. I filled in for a guy called Bob Breyer, who played drums for My Chemical Romance. I filled in on a South American Pacific Rim tour. We did Hawaii, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore. We did Australia, New Zealand as well. But I kind of like knew the songs because I've been friends with those guys for a while. But then like flew to Australia last minute, rehearsed with the band the night before, and then stepped on stage the next night, or stepped on stage for sound check the next day for the show, and there was a computer behind me.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that thing? It's like, oh, the whole show is is tempo mapped.
Yep.
So I was like, oh shit. So the hardest part about that for me was the count-ins, because some of the songs were 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, then 4 count. You know what I mean? But some of them were just like a free time click, so it didn't matter when I clicked in. So I had to have all these notes on my set list, like this one's a regular solid metronome song. Like I can come in whenever, but this one is like there's a 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you do the hi-hat 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the song starts. So it was like that was the hardest part.
Yeah, I mean, that's when it gets weird. And also, like the rest of if you're counting it in, the rest of the band is counting on you to do that. Yeah,
because they're not hearing any of that.
No. And that's what I find the toughest. Like, I filled in for a friend of mine at a show with it was like a lot of track stuff. A couple of years ago, and that's what I found to be the toughest part is like I can forget that nobody else hears it because I just assume, well, I got it here. It's like screaming loud in my ear. But like you forget, you just come in where you're supposed to, but you don't cue everybody else. Like that's a disaster.
Yeah. And with the MCR, there wasn't anything on track. It just the show was to a grid.
Yep.
So because they had like a lot of like pyro cues and lighting cues and stuff like that, so that's why that was to a click. But like with the boy band, The Wanted, that was there was tracks, there was extra sounds and such. So it was it was very important for me to stay completely on.
Yeah, well,
which you should anyway, but
sure. But that seems to be becoming more and more common, where people will use like clicks and tracks and things. But would you have been used to playing with a click at that point?
I wouldn't say I was used to it. When we recorded our second Thursday's third record, I should say, War All the Time, I played that whole entire record just with a click track, no music at all.
Oh wow!
So I went in first, so I kind of like knew how to play to a click before that, but then kind of really learned how to lock in when I was playing these by myself.
Yeah.
Um,
But that's the knowing the arrangement.
yeah.
Too. I find like anytime I've tried to do that, it's like I'll drop part of a verse or something.
It's easy to do. It's
yeah.
easy to do that. But that goes back to what we were talking about way earlier about like humming the guitar part. Like I would I hear it, I hum it, and then I play it. You know what I mean? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But so I got used to playing with a click, you know, and not, you know, that was me trying to play completely on all the time. With the boy band, it was completely on. Then with, you know, I also did a couple years with Yellowcard, hired to play for Yellowcard for like 2.5 or 3 years. That whole thing was to a grid as well on a click. And they were using, you know, they didn't even have pedals for the guitars. The guitars just changed. So it was, I again had to play the arrangements perfectly. Everything had to be completely on to the grid, you know, so that was wild.
How would they have like axe effects or something? Like how would that work?
Effects, yeah. Yeah, so it was crazy, you know, and there was no monitors either. There were only in-ear monitors, so no wedges, and no cabinets because they were, what's it? Not fractal, but what's the other head that it's a mimics everything. I can't remember the name.
Oh, I don't know, because like fractal is who makes axe effects, I believe.
Yeah, this was something. It was This is why I'm a terrible guitar player.
Oh, yeah, I know. I had my old bandmate was really into this stuff. What is like Periphery is like big into. I know they've got like all that stuff dialed in.
Yeah,
he was really into those
Steve
guys.
from Thursday has one, and I call it a toaster. It's like like this big, and it's green, and I forget what the frig it's called. But that was weird having no monitors on stage. So there was, or no cabinets even. It was just like, when I'd have friends come and watch, they would stand on the side of the stage. I'd be like, you might not want to stand there because all you're going to hear are acoustic drums.
Right.
So, which is weird when you're like, have like people that have never seen you before that are friends of yours who don't know music. They come and watch you on the side of the stage and I'm like, that sounded really weird. And it's like, well, you're just really hearing.
Oh, you hear the drums. And it's a loud rock band too. So it's like you're really smashing them.
Yeah, smash them, and you're hearing nothing but that. So you got to really go out front to hear anything.
Wild.
So that was a trip, but it was great. You know, that was another great dudes, good time. You know, challenging stuff.
Yeah. They are a kind of band, like they sort of like, for me, sort of popping out. Like I remember like the early days, the really kind of fast skate punk kind of stuff. Yeah. And then like obviously Ocean Avenue was like huge. But it's like, I don't know, it doesn't surprise me when anybody is still going because what else are you going to do? But it's kind of curious where, like, what kind of touring they be doing at this point. Are they just like playing Yellowcard shows and to adoring audiences or what?
When I was with them, I mean, they've since stopped. I think they did their last tour in 2018 for good. Yeah. I stopped playing with them, I believe, 2016. And shows were, you know, well attended. Shows were good. People were there and singing along and such. So, I mean, it's funny. Like, I had known Ryan and Sean for a very long time, the singer and the fiddle player as well, prior to being asked to join them. My friend Arun, who plays in Saves the Day, hit me up one day. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" I was like, "Oh, well, I was doing this boy band thing, blah blah blah." He's like, "So you're off?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yellowcard's looking for a drummer. You should hit them up." And like that was one of those points where it's like I didn't know what I was gonna do. Like the boy band had stopped playing, like they broke up. So I was like, "Fuck, what am I gonna do? Maybe now's the time to get a new job." Oh, here's Arun calling. What's this about? And then. So I was like, all right. So I got in touch with Ryan and he texted me. He's like, yeah, I'd love to, to get you out here to try out. And then I go to text my manager. I get done texting Ryan. I go to text my manager. I'm like, hey, Ryan from Yellowcard just hit me up, asking me if I should come try out. Do they even really play anymore? Like, I'm not sure. And I wasn't being a dick. I was just saying it. But I ended up sending that straight to Ryan.
Oh no.
Instead of my manager. So he writes me out. He's like, yeah, we're still playing. He's like, just a rock band still playing. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. Luckily we were friends. But at any rate, I flew out to LA and did the tryout, and I guess I won.
Well, I mean, that makes me feel a little bit better too about not knowing.
Yeah. So I won the tryout. And
congrats.
Thanks. And yeah, so that was cool.
Yep, you out-drummed the other drummers.
Trying out for people that you know.
Oh, no kidding. I don't know if I've ever had to do that, but yeah, no kidding, right? It's like a job interview.
Yeah.
Do you know who else tried out?
I don't.
Yeah, that's probably better.
I wanted to know because I just wanted to know what the competition was like, but then I realized I didn't get into this game for competition, so.
No, not really. It's like because and I realize now I have tried out for people I know, and it is weird, but because especially it's like there's not even ever two of your instrument in a band usually, so there's like you're not really there's like even if you are competitive, unless you're in like rudiment contests or something, like there's like where are you going to use that? Yeah.
I the drum community is so awesome because I feel like it is very non-competitive and there's room for everyone to be friends.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people in the bands that I play with, they're always like, man, you're so lucky. It's like, the drum community's cool. Like y'all can hang out. You talk about your nerdy fucking diddles and this and that and the other thing. And, guitar people are kind of more like,
oh, really?
Guitar.
Trying to be the hot shot? Like, like I'm not going to show you my settings, bro.
Or there's just not really like a big guitar community. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
drummers are lucky.
It's funny. It's interesting. Somebody was saying, I've never been to NAMM. I live like on the other side of the continent, but somebody was telling me that it's like the drum part of it is just like so loud. But like, because all the drummers are hanging out.
Yeah. Just a bunch of people who do the same thing.
Yeah.
Being like, whoa, we're kind of alike. This is awesome.
Funny. Okay. So I had like some technical questions, but I want to. So you're touring with Yellowcard, and now how are we doing for time? Anyway, also I don't want to take up too much of your time here.
That's cool, man. You're fun.
All right. Well, likewise, right back at you. Okay, so we can cut this part out. And oh man, my brother is like an audio engineer guy, and he's like been taking on the editing duties of this thing, which like makes it way more feasible for me. I don't mind editing my own show, but it is such a time suck.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Anyhow, so Yellowcard, how long did you play with them for?
2.5 years ish.
Yeah.
And
did you leave or did it wind down or what?
I to tell you the truth, I don't really know. I mean, I still talk to Ryan Key and Josh Portman and Ryan Mendez, who was the guitar player. I still talk to them kind of regularly. I kind of went home and they kind of wanted to do their last tour, but I was getting married, so I couldn't. They wanted to do a full year of touring, and I was like, well, I can't really do that because I'm getting married.
That's not going to happen.
But I can do this to this, and Sean, the violin player, I was like, well, we kind of want somebody who can do the whole year. Like it's kind of like our last tour. So they ended up getting the kid who was in the opening band, who the singer produced their record. So it ended up working out. Like, cool for that kid, and
he would have freaked out. I'm sure he would have loved it.
Yeah. So he did. He played in his own band opening and then also played in the headlining band on their last tour ever. So
right.
Good for him. And I got married and my wife is over there. So
yeah,
everybody
congrats.
wins.
Yeah. My wife just got home from work. And congratulations.
Oh, thanks. You too.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so you get married. Yellowcard is kind of not happening. What happens after that?
So shortly thereafter, we Thursday decided to do a show,
Just one.
and it was a weekend. Basically, it was a festival in Atlanta, Georgia,
What was
and
the
I don't know
festival?
why
Do you remember?
I can't remember,
Yeah.
but Quicksand played it, so it was
Oh,
pretty
cool.
sweet. Yeah, no, a lot of good bands played. So that was a lot of fun. It was literally our first show back, and for a lot of us, it was the first time seeing each other in a bunch of years. So
I bet.
the singer Jeff and myself, we lived down the street from each other, so we had seen each other here and there and whatnot. But for a bunch of us, we hadn't seen each other for quite some time. So we kind of did that, and then that weekend turned into another weekend shortly thereafter, and then another weekend, and then we decided to do a tour, and things went great. We had a good time with each other, and yeah, and then we ended up doing another 20-year tour where the band was together 20 years. So we did Full Collapse and War All the Time front to back.
Yeah.
So the first night in whatever city was Full Collapse, and the second night we do War All the Time. So it was a really easy, like, 2 nights in each city.
Yep.
Awesome, fun time.
Well, that's nice too to be able to like it's not so hectic.
Yeah.
Like traveling around, and also it's nice to be able to do a couple of nights anywhere.
Absolutely.
You find it like how are the crowds like in terms of
Crowds
energy?
were amazing.
Yep.
People were stoked, and the best part about it is, like, we're our own techs as well. At least I am. The guitar players have somebody, but I don't have anybody. So not breaking down was really great.
Yeah, no
And
kidding.
it was always a bummer. I always would be so grumpy after the second night because I knew I'd have to break down.
Yeah. It's the worst too. It's like such a buzzkill. It's like you just played this amazing show and you feel so good, and now I gotta like pack my drums up. It's like it sucks.
And you like work really hard. You're working really hard back there. You're basically like running a marathon, and then it's like, oh, guess what? You have about another hour's worth of work to do.
Yeah, so the least glamorous job. Well, I'm sure
Yeah.
like cleaning the toilets is less glamorous, but
So it's the same difference, because I'm sure there's all kinds of, spit, snot, probably a little bit of pee back there as well. So same thing.
Just in the air. If we've learned anything from coronavirus, everything is in the air.
Everything.
That is so cool, man. And that's like, so at this point, are you guys looking? Are you just kind of like picking and choosing, doing stuff where you feel like it? Are you like looking to ramp up production or?
No, we were kind of going where we wanted to go, working with each other's schedules, on who can do what, who is available during this, because a lot of us, have regular jobs as well. So it was, kind of fitting in each other's schedules and when we could do it. That's why, and we decided we would only do like short stints, like a month would be the max to be away, and but mostly we wanted to do like weekends here and there. And then, so we're kind of picking and choosing, also like going where we were wanted. You know what I mean? Like we didn't want to just book shows to go play shows, because we love our band and we want to leave like a legacy. You know what I mean? And have it be cool. So we only want to go where people want to see us. We don't want to like burn ourselves out or, be like, oh, Thursday's coming again, I'm not going to go tonight. It's like, we wanted people to be like psyched.
Sure. And then it's only good vibes too, right? Because then you're cutting out like the real depressing part of it, which
Absolutely.
is like, the grind, the why am I doing this?
Yeah. I'm 41 years old. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really want to, not be stoked.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just want to be stoked all the time. I don't say stoked very much.
No, but it's the right word. It's the right term.
I'm sitting on my couch today, and I get a FaceTime from Adam Willard, and he tells me some weird joke, and then all of a sudden we're chatting a little bit more, and he puts his head down. He's like, "Well, I'm 100," and it says 1,000% stoked. Just a weird reminder of that.
Yeah.
But then shortly thereafter, Frank Iero calls and wants me to join the new incarnation of his band. which is Frank Iero and the Future Violence.
Right. Okay. I'm not familiar with him. I in researching or like looking up your online stuff, his name came up.
Yeah.
What's his story?
He plays guitar in My Chemical Romance.
Okay.
Longtime friend. I've known him for 247 years.
Right.
And so it just made sense. And, I had filled in for MCR. He's been to a bunch of Thursday shows. Thursday and MCR played together. We've known each other forever, blah, blah, blah. Let's play in a band together. So it was a lot of fun doing his solo stuff.
Cool. And is there, I mean, obviously nobody can tour right now, but is that something that he's looking to push really hard, or is it kind of when it fits in, we do this sort of thing?
I mean, we did a record. We finished it in 2018, and then Thursday did a tour in the first 3 months of 2019. Then I did a week of Late Night with Seth Meyers. Then I did 6 months with Frank after that. So we went hard in 2019.
Wow.
So 2020 was going to be off for us anyway, I would assume. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Thursday is supposed to be on tour right now. We were supposed to do, we hadn't announced it even. We kind of just put a thing on our socials today. But we were doing a headlining tour with Cursive, and so I Watched You From Afar, which is a band from Ireland, really good band. So
cool. What, a U.S. tour?
U.S. tour, yeah. And a little bit of Canada, actually.
Oh, where were you gonna go?
I think we're gonna do Toronto, Montreal, Edmonton, Vancouver. There was more, I can't remember.
Calgary would be the other kind of major
Calgary,
one
probably,
in that loop.
Yeah, so we were so psyched, because we haven't been to Canada in a while. Last time I was in Canada, we were in Saskatoon.
Oh, how was that? I've never been.
On a day off, and it was, I think, negative 80 degrees or something insane
oh my God.
like that. It was like you couldn't go outside. It was the friggin' worst.
The prairies, it gets so cold because there's no water. Like here, we're by the ocean, and it sort of like moderates the temperature a little bit. But there, and I feel like it's not the same thing in the middle of the U.S. Although, like the plains go all the way down, but I don't know if it gets as cold. Maybe there's just nothing around so the wind can pick up steam, or I don't know what it is.
Dude, it was insane.
Yeah. Winnipeg is apparently the slushy capital of Canada. It's like a pride thing where everybody just like doesn't matter how cold it is, like we're drinking slushies.
Dude, it's too cold.
Yeah. I know, you're right. It is too cold. It's like, it makes you
cold.
wonder why anybody would decide to build a city there.
I mean, I often wonder why I live in New Jersey or on the East Coast in general. It's like, why don't I just live in California where it's nice all the time?
Uh-huh. But why don't you?
I don't
know. There are reasons, right? You have roots. That's
roots. We have all our families here, so it's like we just had a kid. What are we gonna do? Move to LA where we have no family and no one to babysit our child?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be fun. So this is a question I had. Being a parent who tours, like that's still a new thing. So you haven't had to. It hasn't really come up yet, probably, but. Is that a concern that is gonna something's gonna have to give at some point?
I mean, it's a concern for sure, but we were moving in the direction of doing, less is more, anyway.
You're already less but better.
Yeah. And
you're already moving that way.
Yeah. And at this point, it's like my wife has a job, so I'm kind of like the stay-at-home dad right now anyway.
Yep.
So anything
Classic.
that, anything that I could make would be gravy, so to speak, you know what I mean? So
that's many musicians I know.
Yeah. Yeah. 2020. I'm all for it.
No kidding. We're not there yet. My wife is kind of baby plans, and I'm not opposed. I'm the oldest of 6, so when I got out of the house, I was like, I'd had enough babies for a while. But
I mean, I'll tell you, it's wonderful. It's the best. just like everybody else says, it's the best. It really is.
Yeah.
But it's tough because, you know, but we bought a house in March, had the baby end of March. But like my stipulation for moving out of Brooklyn and buying a house in New Jersey was I needed a detached garage so I could put a drum studio in it.
Yep.
And that's what I got. And I put a drum studio in there. But, you know, I try to play every day, but I have to like really coordinate when I can play, because I don't want to be away from my wife and baby for too long, because then that makes my wife have to watch her. My wife has stuff to do.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I really have to be coordinated. And I have a bunch of friends of mine in several different bands, all drummers, have this thing called the Indie Drum Collective, where once a month.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Simple Minds.
Yeah, which was an amazingly hard song to play, but so much fun.
That's
but
one that,
month,
like, go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, no, you, wow, are you sure you're not Canadian? It's one that drum groove popped out to me on the radio as something that I had never heard before. It's like, you've heard the song a million times, but that part, right, is like, there's more going on than I realized.
Oh, so much. I was like, what did I get myself into? But it's a lot of fun. And so once a month, we kind of cover a genre of music. Like that was 80s pop. And the week before we did, 80s metal. And the first one we did was, I think it was just like pick a Clash song.
Right.
So I Fought the Law. It's just a lot of fun because it's not only is it fun to play cover songs, but like for me personally, I'm trying to play it note for note, which is pretty difficult.
It's tough, and it's like inevitably you run into something that you wouldn't play that somebody else would.
Yeah. This month is 70s rock, right?
What are you going to do?
And I just finished it literally right before we got on this call. Circling back to calculating this. So I was like, hey, I have to do a Zoom tonight. Do you think I can steal 2 hours so I can go finish this? I got to go do this song. I need to record it. It needs to be perfect. So can I do it? Literally walked in here with 5 minutes to spare. I was still sweating as we got on the Zoom. So it's 70s rock. And of course I picked Barracuda.
Oh, amazing.
Which is a very difficult friggin' song.
It's so tough, man. I remember attempting to play that a few years ago and just being like those like odd time bars, like bum 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 bum.
Yeah, because then there's an addendum to that part,
Yeah.
But that doom to get and the ghost notes on the left hand and the foot kind of going the whole. It's crazy.
Yep.
So
it's
I
awesome,
finished that just before we got on the Zoom call. So it's not due till the 15th, but I wanted to get it done. So.
Oh, nice. This won't come out before then, so your secret is safe.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I had a friend who covered that band, and they were like covered that song. They're a 3-piece band, amazing singer, but like keys, bass, and drums. And the bass player played, I think the singer just sang for that tune. The bass player is just so good. He just was like, like distortion and octave pedals, and like, it was so cool. That song's awesome.
That's like the never-ending gallop.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's. I will let you get back to your life. I did a couple of questions. One was, how do you keep from destroying your hands when playing loud music on tour every night? What have you, you say you're self-taught, except for a lesson with Dave Elich, which is cool. I guess it's just like a general technical question of like, what is your approach to that stuff, and how do you keep from destroying your body?
Well, as far as like calluses and whatnot, I don't really have very many calluses. My hands are freakishly soft these days. I don't know why. But I don't know. I work out every day, especially on tour. I find a place to go to the gym and whatnot. So definitely try to keep fit and eat right. But as far as like technique, I just try not to grip the stick too hard, and I try to sit up as straight as possible, as Dave Elich has taught me to kind of do. I think about it all the time. But another thing is, people think I'm crazy, but I play big cymbals because they warble so much and they feel really soft to hit. So, I mean, I don't know if it sounds like shit or what, but it definitely gives me a nice rebound on the right hand. That's for sure.
That's great. And you use huge drums too.
I do. Bonham
Yeah.
size.
Yeah. Is that why, or you just like them, or what?
I mean, I love John Bonham, but I also I always liked a 26-inch kick drum, shallow, 14 by 26. I just think it sounds great.
Yeah.
To me, it plays more like a 22 than a 24 does, you know? And I would think it would look stupid to have a really small rack tom. You know,
sure,
so
of course.
that's why with a huge kick drum,
like a penny farthing or something, like those
exactly,
old bicycles.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I just, you can tune them up to make them sound, you know, higher pitched. You can tune them low to make them sound like they're supposed to. So I feel like I have all the range that I need in bigger drums.
Cool. How'd you end up going to see? I also have taken one lesson with Dave Elich, and I'm pretty tall. I'm 6'2", and so I've been a sloucher forever. I find drum thrones never go high enough.
Okay.
I started just bringing my own. So even in shows where it's like you're sharing a kit or whatever, just to make sure I'll be able to sit high enough.
Right.
But then you're still limited by, like hi-hat stands. How high is that going to go? And
yeah, the rod or whatever doesn't go high enough.
Yeah, all of it. But so anyway, that was one thing. And he was like, sit up straight. And I was like, I am. And then he's like, no, dude. And he like took a picture on his phone. And he showed me, and I'm like leaning forward.
Oh, yeah. He's a wizard, that dude. He's a friggin' wizard.
Yeah, no kidding. Any like major changes, or was it like posture and like subtle things, or what?
I mean, so I've been a fan of Dave's for a while, and he and I didn't really know each other. I guess we kind of knew of each other or whatever. But I hit him up on Instagram. I was like, hey, I'm going to be in LA on tour. I would like you to come to the show if you want. But I also would love to, if you have time, to sneak a lesson. So I went, and he did the same thing. I kind of sat in the throne, and he was like, all right, sit the way you're going to. Took a picture, and he's like, now do this. And look at the difference. I was like, oh, shit, here we go. And then he's like, all right, play a groove. And he's like, you're burying the beater. He's like, you need to not bury the beater. And I was like, oh, fuck. And then he's like, now do it. But now look at your posture. You're doing that. Now you're not doing that. So it was like a mind fuck. But it's one of those things where he's so good at it and so good at teaching you that, like, every time I sit at the kit, I think about these things. Even if by the end of the song I'm slouched to where I normally am, at least it's in my mind to try to correct it when I think about it, you know?
Totally. I thought like his bass drum thing was so weird at first, and I still haven't totally got it. But I also am somebody who, like, my left foot hops all the time, and I know like you're not supposed to, but it's funny.
Like, why are you doing that clave? Does it add to the song? I'm like, no, but I just think it's the right thing to do. He's like, get out of your own way. You don't. Why are you doing that? You don't need to do that. It's just expending energy.
Yep.
It's crazy that the whole thing about getting out of your own way, and it's really true.
Oh, no kidding. And it's funny because it's like part of what it made me notice is like now the ways that I'm doing things ineffectively. I still got it. Like I've been like trying to, I don't know. I got to revisit. I bought the chorus. I haven't been as good a student as I should be because I like hurt my fingers in the last couple of weeks, like doing the grip wrong, but whatever.
He's a great teacher. He's like phenomenal. And I told myself, like, I've never had a lesson before, and if I do, I'm going to take it with somebody who's like fucking the Don of lessons, and he's the Don. Yeah,
I think you picked the right one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will, 10 out of 10 will go back.
Yeah, I would like to, too. I mean, if I was in LA, it would be easier. I know he does this kind of thing, and I might hit him up at some point, but...
Absolutely. I just think there's nothing like it the in person. I mean, I'm sure that it's just as useful on Skype or whatever, but there's something about being there and being in the room, and that's kind of where I take all my inspiration.
Totally agree. Well, also just the thing of like it's like your actual. It's like somebody can actually tell you what your hand is doing. Or like reposition your whatever. Yeah. And
there's something about going to his spot makes you feel like you're doing something for yourself. Like, I'm seeking this out, and I'm going, and I'm dedicating myself to be, in a place that's uncomfortable for me, like not on my drums, not on my throne, not on my snare, it's like just for the learning experience,
Yeah, but it also was kind of, and it also was kind of intimidating too, I would say, to like show up and like, whoa, those are the drums I saw in those videos.
Yeah.
The DW kits.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. All right, well, I think I should hop off. I want to thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, of course. Anytime. All right, great one, right? Told you. Huge thanks again to Tucker for being here, Wendy Ford of Wendy Ford PR, and you. Where would we be without you? Hey, nice ear, buddy. Did you ever listen to the Bob and Doug McKenzie? I had the CD. They're like, hey, I'm in your ear. Oh, why don't you ever clean this thing? Anyway, if you like the show, why not subscribe, share, rate us, leave us a review. Those things help, so I'm told. It's not caring about that is not something I generally do, but why not? Why shouldn't I encourage people to do it, right? We'll be back in 2 weeks with another banger of an episode, another absolute banger. I feel like there was something I wanted to tell you, and now I'm completely blanking on it. Oh, right. I had a joke. My joke, I was like ready to quit the podcasting game like yesterday. I was just getting burnt out on social media. I haven't seen The Social Dilemma yet. But then I listened to this afternoon. It was recorded back in August. I was like, yeah, this is great. But I still have 20 minutes left, so don't tell me how it ends. Yeah, no. All right. Learn Drums on Instagram, learndrums.ca. It also was like frustrating having a business Instagram account because they want you to pay for everything. They really choke your reach. Whatever. Boo-hoo. It's free. It's not free. You know the deal. All right. You know where to find me. Learn Drums brand on the internet. All right. Thanks so much for being here. We'll talk to you next time. Oh, if you like the theme song too, please check out Sunny Side Uppers on whatever thing you use for listening to music. Except Bandcamp right now. Lost Opus Bandcamp. There's a song on there. Bye for now.